Welcome to the Rated Rabbi Sports Card podcast, where sports cards and pop culture meet the 1984 All-Star Game. I am your host, Rabbi David Spinrad. This is episode 2, Hip to be Square. We don't call this one Hip to be Square because of Huey Lewis, although Huey does play a part on this show. Huey might just be the patron saint rock god of the Rated Rabbi podcast. Hip to be Square wasn't until 86. We're back in sports. Hip to be Square is on 4, which is 1986. We're not there yet. We call this episode Hip to be Square because this episode we are looking at the set of 1984 Topps, and you can't think about the 1984 set without thinking about just how many right angles are in that set. You've got the block letters running down the left, and of course the very square picture in the bottom hand corner. 84 Topps keeps that run, I think, from 82 to 92, something like that, of 792 cards in the set. I'll be honest, the 1984 set ranks only 6th out of 10 in the decade for me. My order is 5th. I go 1982. Got that cool kind of racing stripe down the side. It's grown on me over the years. Number 4, 1989. It's a bummer it's so junk waxy because it's got a really gorgeous, that kind of a callback to 1965. Not a flag, but kind of a swirly, swooshy thing on the bottom with the name in there. Very nice. Number 3, 1985. If Miami Vice was a card set, that is the most 80s set, that rectangular box on the bottom. Of course, it's got Gooden and Clemens in that set. Eric Davis, come on. So 85 is my number 3 favorite set of the 1980s. Number 2, 1980, that simple flaggy kind of thing on the bottom. It's much more than a Ricky Henderson rookie. It's also got a cool all-star banner across the top. What is that, pink and purple, something like that? My second, that was what, number 2? My number 1 favorite set of the 1980s. 1983, a callback to 1963. Just such a beautiful design. The circular 2 photo, right, action shot portrait circle on the bottom. So I go number 6, 1984, 5, 1982, 4, 1989, 3, 1985, 2, 1980, and numero uno, 1983, the best set of the 1980s. Number 10, the worst set. If you say anything other than 1981, well, you're just wrong in my mind. 1981 is a horrible set. Like the pictures are itty bitty, and the hats. Come on, man. And the set also turns out kind of like inky. I'm not going to criticize the centering because that's how it was back then. But just I never really vibe on the 1981 set. Let's talk 1984. In addition to the base set, there's some of the special inserts where there was a 1983, a series of 1983 highlights. There were team checklists that had average and ERA, or the pitching leader, hitting leader, checklist on the backside. There, of course, were league leaders. There were active career leaders. And there was also an all-star card, which kind of was off and on again, but starting in 82, Topps went back to on again, and base cards and all-star cards for the all-stars as well. And of course, wax packs had this kind of cool little scratch-off game. Maybe we'll see a little scratch-off card later in this episode. Cards were issued in wax packs, of course. The box cover man, who was it? Lefty Steve Carlton. You can also see a couple other guys. There's Reggie on one side. There's Mike Schmidt. And then it kind of stacks downward. You can't really see who it is. There's a Red Sox. I'm assuming it's Jim Rice. There's an Angel, which is probably Rod Carew. And there's somebody else I can't remember right now. But really, Lefty Steve Carlton is your cover boy on the box. Wax packs, cellos, rack packs. It was good stuff. That's enough. Let's look at some of these cards. and get into it. All right, I've got a panoply. I've got a display of 7 different cards to look at, highlighting some of the things I lifted up, and I just used the word panoply. It's a sports card show. It's a dictionary. Come along for the ride. All right, so check this out. Let's start at the top. There is that highlight card. Not a highlight card, but there is the box cover boy, Steve Carlton. Carlton has like 3 cards, at least in the set, 4. And everyone is more or less that picture, right? Got the high leg kick, glove down low. What's super cool about this card is if you flip it over, he's one of those dudes who's playing it for a long year. Remember, his rookie card is 65 Topps. It's itty bitty scritty font. You can barely see it, but if you get out the magnifying glass and you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you'll see that Lefty ended the 1983 season with 300 wins and 200 losses. Admittedly, not as cool as Clemente's 73 Topps, right? I mean, come on. 3,000 hits on the button. That's the best back of card stat of all time. But Lefty 300 and 200 at the end of the 83 season is pretty darn cool. Let's move over one. Let's take a look at the 1983 highlights. You've got Nolan Ryan, you've got Steve Carlton, and you've got Gaylord Perry. Gaylord Perry looked like he could work on your car. Right? Got the sideburns, little belly going. What's cool about this highlight is all 3, Ryan, Carlton, and Gaylord Perry, all passed Walter Johnson for the all-time career strikeout record, I do believe, right? Yeah, that's right. They passed him for the all-time strikeout record. Carlton has a second highlight card related to this where he's the all-time holder in strikeouts. That one didn't age so well because Nolan Ryan goes on and pitches for like 10 more years. He's a maniac, that Ryan, man. So that's a pretty cool card. I like that one. Moving down to the bottom hand right, 1983 batting leaders. These guys won the batting titles in the NL. It was the Mad Dog. It was Bill Madlock who won the NL crown with a .323 average, edging out Lonnie Smith, who was playing for St. Louis, hit .321. And in the end, now check out Wade Boggs. First full season in the majors. What's Boggs hit first year in the show? .361. Carew hits .339. Doesn't even come close. Now, one thing you got to know about me, I love advanced metrics. Spent many hours on Fangraphs. I think it's a great way to dive into the game. When I used to play fantasy, I just was living those deep stats. But this show, we're going to go a little more old school. We're going to enjoy the numbers on the back of the card. So aside from when I mix in the occasional career war kind of thing, let's have some fun with the old school stats. Let's say wins. I miss wins. Remember when winning 20 was cool? Forget about it. Remember a batting title? Remember a batting race? So good. I miss that stuff. So we're going to have some fun, pay a little more attention to those old school stats. And come on, how can you not love Bill Madlock? Oh my God, man. The Giants, dude, gave him away for nothing. That was a dark era in Giants baseball. If you read Cobra, Dave Parker's biography, he talks about how they basically just stole Madlock for the Giants. I think they got like a case of Marlboro cigarettes. It was terrible. All right, let's scoot on over to the active career AL batting leaders. Rodney Klein Carew clocking in at a cool .331. George Brett at .316. And Earl Cooper hitting. Earl Cooper, no, that was a Niner running back / tight end. Cecil Cooper, Red Sox Brewer. Long forgotten, but that guy could hit, man. Cooper was hitting .308. Over there in the bottom left-hand corner, you have that little scratch-off game. I couldn't resist putting that in there for us. Check it out. The All-Star Baseball game. If you hit the winner, you were going to the World Series. And what kid didn't dream was oh my God, go to the All-Star game. I don't know, what is it, World Series? Go to the World Series. Forget about it. Man, who do you take? I mean, I'd probably take my dad. Guy who pay for everything. I got no money. I'm a little 13-year-old. Take my dad. Oh, my brother would be hating it, but he'd play it cool. Like, he didn't really care about going. Like, I like football better anyway, which he always says, but come on, dude, go to the World Series. It'd be cool, but it wouldn't be the Giants in the World Series. We'd have to wait a couple more decades for that. But anyway, so if you didn't win a World Series, you could also win batting gloves. Pretty cool. Then there was also this other thing. You see where it says 5 runs there in the bottom right. You collect 25 runs and you send them into Topps, and you get the there were different A, B, C, D categories. You could pick little groups of these little glossy cards, and they were the same glossies that were on the front of rack packs. You could get some of those little inserts. In the top left-hand corner is George Hendrick. Now, what I wanted to bring Hendrick into this one for 2 reasons. Number one, I wanted to illustrate that this was a year where there were base cards and all-star cards. Not that different. Still have that vertical Cardinals running up top to bottom on the left, the all-star in the corner. Hendrick is another one of those dudes who you just don't think about, but he had a pretty darn good career. 4-time all-star, 2 times a World Series winner, once in 72 with the Swingin' A's, and then once in 82 with the St. Louis Cardinals. Remember that? That was a good series. Remember that? Played the Brewers when the Brewers were AL. I remember like Paul Molitor and Robin Yount. That was fun. Hendrick also won 2 Silver Sluggers. Now, the other reason I wanted to show that all-star guard, get up there, look there closely. What's George Hendrick wearing underneath his jersey? Our boy's wearing a windbreaker. I think some of the best baseball cards are dudes used to wear windbreakers under their jerseys. And if you look, he has a collar on the windbreaker. Now, what is the Hall of Fame all-time super greatest player on a baseball card wearing a windbreaker photo? You guessed it. 1963, Sandy Koufax. Take a look. Blue windbreaker. Great card. I wonder if we could start a movement. Bring back the windbreaker under the jersey look. It seems like it's just a lost time, a lost relic to time. All right, last card we're going to look at tonight. Who, you're asking yourself, who in the heck is George Bjorkman? Bjorkman, a catcher from the Houston Astros. And why among this great tableau, panoply of baseball greats, why is George Bjorkman? Why is he next to Steve Carlton? Why is he higher on the candlestick board than Rod Carew? I'll tell you why. I'm going to tell you, this is George Bjorkman's one and only baseball card. I'm not counting minor league cards. I'm talking like Topps edition, right? Okay, Tiffany, blah, 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 Nestle, it's the same card. This George Bjorkman made it on a baseball card. The guy could ball. Originally, he was drafted by the St. Louis Cardinals, dealt to Houston in 1983, gets called up on July 10th, 1983, exactly 1 year away from the All-Star game we're going to remember on this show. Bjorkman comes up. He comes in to pinch hit. He's facing Mets lefty Jesse Orosco in the 6th inning. Orosco, part of the master set, a member of the 1984 NL All-Star Game. Bags loaded, Orosco on the hill, a lefty Bjorkman, a righty at the plate. Kicks and delivers. Bjorkman, a base hit. George Bjorkman, not to be confused with Fred the Dorfman from Fletch fame. That was a deep cut for someone who's a Fletch fan. So there's one person out there who gets that. Like, oh, guys, bring in Fletch. Oh, my God. Fred the Dorfman. George Bjorkman. Bjorkman lasts that season with the Astros. In the offseason, he's dealt 1985, March of 1985. He is dealt to the Montreal Expos. And he's out of the baseball game at the end of the year. It's true. By 1985, end of the 1985 season, George Bjorkman retires, drafted in 78, retires in 1985. You did not expect to learn about George Bjorkman tonight. I think that's all I've got to say about the 1984 Topps set. A little look at what it was. It comes in 6th in the decade in my very subjective ratings. Shout out to Steve Carlton, not an all-star in that season, but I just couldn't go into the show without giving him some proper respect. Extra shout out to Mad Dog, Bill Madlock, one of my faves, Rodney Cline Carew. Did you know that the song by Lords, that is Lord, Royals, is after George Brett? Look it up, Google it. All right, friends, thanks for tuning in. I will see you next time as we dive deeper into sports cards, pop culture, 1984 All-Star Game. If you are heading to Chantilly this weekend, I'm going to squeeze in a couple morning hours on Saturday, please. And until next time, may you enjoy health and long life.